So friends, we are very fortunate that we have a respectable Swami here in this evening. He is Swami Ranganathananda, a senior monk of Ramakrishna Order of India. He does not need any special introduction. He is a great religious educator, reminding people constantly their true goal of life, solving many of their deep-rooted problems of life. This evening, Swamiji has agreed to give us a talk on Vedantic humanism of Vivekananda.
Which is the one. Friends, I'm happy to be with all of you this evening. This is my last engagement during this visit to San Francisco area. Tomorrow morning I fly to Houston. And I am glad that this evening we have this subject to discuss. Vedantic humanism of Swami Vivekananda. Humanism is a great word conveying a profound message that stirs the hearts of men and women. It has a great history. Originally Greco-Roman, where humanism was cultivated, but with limitations. Citizenship in Athens and other Greek cities was confined only to certain groups of people. Not only the slaves, which numbered more than the citizens, but also women had no citizenship. So humanism, though it originated in Greece, had its own limitations. But it is a Greek contribution in Western history. Roman humanism was wider. And yet there also the slave was a slave. He had no status. Humanism stopped short at that level. This continued for centuries. Then came Christianity with its own ideal of humanism. It was humanistic. Love for man is a great teaching of Jesus, particularly when he formulated his whole message in one single statement: love thy God with all thy heart and all thy soul and all thy mind. That is the first and the greatest in the commandment. And the second is like unto the first: love thy neighbor as thyself. That is one of the most beautiful formulations. Religion as well as this philosophy of humanism. But in actual practice, this was again circumscribed. Within the denomination, we are very humanistic. Outside the denomination, our humanism stops. Within the Christian religion, humanism. Beyond it, no humanism at all. That limitation affected the practice of humanism in the West during all the centuries when Christianity dominated the Western world. Later on came the split in Christendom during the Reformation. That split generated great hostilities until they found expression in a bitter war between the Protestants and the Catholics in Germany. Historians call it the 30 Years' War. The population of Germany became reduced from 25 million to 5 million during that period, according to historians. At the end of that conflict, the whole European mind reacted to this event, this bitter conflict within the same religion between two denominations. Out of that reaction was born another idea of humanism, a post-Reformation humanism that was helped by the West Europeans coming in touch with classical Greek literature and philosophy and that Greek humanism. Because of the closing of Constantinople and the path towards the east, the entire Greek community became disturbed and divided. The Turkish power arose in that Greek area. Constantinople is a center of Greek religion, Orthodox Church, and so several Greek scholars and philosophers fled to West European countries, particularly Italy and France. There, the Europeans discovered the great classical culture of Greece, 5th century BC. That gave them a new vision of humanism, anti-religious, secular outlook. As a reaction against this war between two denominations of the same religion, the famous British historian late Toynbee discusses this subject in his book Historian's Approach to Religion, Edinburgh University Lectures. He says, the specification of a kingdom of heaven was a point of acrimonious debate ending in a violent war between two sections of Christians. What is the nature of the kingdom of heaven we want to establish here? And because of this, the Western mind reacted violently against religion. Why should we try to establish a kingdom of God for which two denominations could not agree and which entailed such a bitter war for 30 years? Is it not wiser to think of establishing a kingdom of man on earth instead of a kingdom of God on earth? This was the type of reaction which developed into what you call modern Western secularism and humanism. They went together. No more of religion, no more of God. In the beginning, it was a very slow movement, but as the centuries passed, as the sciences developed, this idea became prominent. Secular attitude. Don't refer to anything supernatural. Because scientific developments were going on side by side, science cannot bear anything supernatural. And religion, as presented in the West, was essentially supernatural. And because of this, the Western mind, educated in modern science, endowed with that rational attitude, withdrew itself from religion and concentrated on man below on earth. That is Western humanism. It is this Western humanism that was given a new support by modern science. And so we call it today scientific humanism. Several Western writers, including the late Sir Julian Huxley, they always swear by scientific humanism. Rational, which you can work it out in this world, remove the sufferings of people, with the help of science and technology, let us have a happy life on earth. We are not concerned with the beyond. That's called secular humanism. This humanism went on very well towards the end of the 19th century. It received very high prestige, but it received a tremendous jolt with the First World War, when men killed men in millions. Then continued interwar years, so many crises, and finally came the Second World War, in which more than 50 million perished, including those who perished in the Holocaust. Then came the thought, what has happened to us? We lost our faith in God. From that reaction to the 30 Years' War. Today we have lost faith even in man. How can we trust man? He cannot love each other. He kills each other. So humanism also became suspect in the eyes of people. Neither a God above nor a man below. No faith to hang on. No great value system to hang on. That emptiness descended upon the human mind after the Second World War. We still do swear by humanism, but it doesn't fulfill our expectations. It is in this context Vivekananda brought his great concept of Vedantic humanism. It has a tremendous background from the time of the Upanishads up to his own teacher, Sri Ramakrishna. It is very fascinating to study this development of humanism, which India developed through the Upanishads, through Buddha, through Sri Ramakrishna in our time. As a philosophy, it is lofty. But India herself has not fully implemented that tremendous philosophy. Somewhere it became short-circuited, so that millions of human beings in India were treated as below par, without rights, the untouchable, the lower classes. This kind of limitation had come on that humanism. It was in that context Vivekananda arose with the blessing of his own master, Sri Ramakrishna, and he formulated his own concept of humanism. We call it Vedantic humanism, and he presented it to the modern world as a practical philosophy to be applied as much in India as in the rest of the world, to create a new humanity with a human concern, with love and compassion and the spirit of service, and thus to create heaven on earth, but from a new point of view. What is the nature of that point of view? This question gets its answer from the great teachings in Vedanta, which has proclaimed that there is a divine spark in every human being. That is the central teaching of Vedanta. The Atman, the divine infinite self, ever pure, ever free, ever illumined. That is the Atman, and that is our nature. Every human being has this profound divine dimension, and he presented this truth before East and West and gave the technical know-how how to unfold this divinity. We have practical Vedanta, we have the pure Vedanta. Just like as we say in science, pure science applied science. Here is the truth, that man is divine. How shall I apply it? He gives us practical Vedanta as a means to apply this teaching in life. Esha sarveshu bhuteshu godho atma na prakashate. This Atman, the divine spark, ever pure, ever free, is present in all beings, but it is not manifest. It is the unmanifest. Will it ever remain unmanifest? Then it has no value for us. If we can manifest it, then it is wonderful. And so the word says, drishyate. It is manifested. It can be manifested. How? Agraya buddhya, sukshmaya, sukshmadarshibhi. It is a very subtle truth which cannot be seen with these eyes. Just like dissecting a human body, let me see the divinity is there or not. You will never be able to see. It is such a subtle truth. When the mind becomes subtle, by training in handling subtle and still more subtle realities, eventually this human mind becomes so pure, so penetrating, it will discover the truth for itself. And many have discovered this truth, and the Upanishads presented this as a truth about man. Man is essentially divine. It is this truth that has been developed, amplified, re-authenticated, retested by a succession of great spiritual teachers and great philosophers in India. And when India studies this subject, it finds that is the truth expounded by the great mystics of the world, of every religion. Whatever may be the lower level of religion and its outlook, what I call the ethnical dimensions of religion, the mystical dimensions of religion have always emphasized this divine spark in every human being. When Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you," he spoke of this profound Vedantic truth, and the mystics tried to realize this truth. They didn't merely believe in it. When we read that great book, the classic in Christian mysticism, Confessions of St. Augustine, it's a wonderful book where he refers to his realization of God, not a belief in God. He realized the truth. And what is God that he realized? "O Lord, thou art the life of my life, the soul of my soul." Not some extra cosmic deity sitting far away, or a majestic deity before whom we cower in fear, but a God of love, ever present in the heart of man. That is how Augustine describes his realization of God. Similarly, other mystics also have done the same, and the Sufi mystics have done the same. They always saw a luminous presence in the heart of every human being. They call it the light in every human being. In all the mystical literature, you will always find this reference to the light that shines in man. That's the language of St. John's Gospel. The light that lighteth every soul that cometh into the world. These are various hints and suggestions in the Bible, in the Quran. They become the basis of a spiritual life and spiritual experience on the part of the great mystics of these religions. But they remained without any kind of validity or strength because of the predominance of the ethnical over the spiritual in all these religions. Study Christianity, study Islam, you will always find the ethnical dominates the spiritual. A mystic must be very careful in expressing his experience. If he goes a little this way and that way, he will be called to order. Even the great German mystic Eckhart, very noble, very lofty, 13th century, he went a little beyond orthodox presentation of the experience of God. He was called to the Inquisition for investigation. Such a lofty person. And fortunately he passed away very soon, before the investigation started. Otherwise he would have to justify himself. Even St. Teresa had to express her experiences in strictly limited terms, limited by the theology available at the time. So the dominance of the ordinary concept of religion, the ethnical concept, over the mystical and spiritual is so prominent in Christianity, and the same thing also in Islam. Some of the most beautiful mystics who realized this truth of the divine in man were hanged by Orthodox Islam. They had to pay a price with their own life. This has continued throughout. But something else happened in India, and that was, we have this ethnical dimension and we have the mystical dimension. But the ethnical was made subordinate to the mystical dimension. The mystical heights of religion is the true religion. And anybody who realizes this truth, he is honored in Hinduism. He will not be persecuted. Not only if he belongs to the Hindu religion, even if he is a Christian or a Muslim, if he is a saintly person, has an experience of God, he is honored by every Hindu. Because the teaching there is, that is the real goal of religion. Realize the truth, that God is hidden within you. That is to be experienced, not to be believed in. This strength is what sustained India for ages. That's why no innovator in religion is persecuted in India. Great innovators were there, preaching against the limitations of ethnical religion. All ethnical religions are limited, narrow, sectarian. Actually, they are called tribal-minded religion. They use the word universal, but actually they are tribal in their outlook. They have no place for the next man. As we say in English, my doxy is orthodoxy, your doxy is heterodoxy. That's the language of all such narrow religions. If at all a denomination member is to pray, he will pray, Lord, you have given me the light and the whole light, and give this light to the next man. That kind of denominational exclusiveness is there in all these systems. But when you go to India, thanks to the great philosophy of the Upanishads, the great Vedanta, this dominance of the mystical over the ethnical became possible. So that if you live the spiritual life, you are respected, you are honored. A saint appears, he can make innovations. Everybody will respect him. No such saint will be persecuted or killed in the Indian subcontinent for hundreds and hundreds of years. That is the importance of Vedanta standing behind a religious tradition, a cultural tradition. In fact, I often used to ask myself, suppose in Europe we had that Upanishadic philosophic vision of the one behind the many, what we call the Advaitic vision, which respects every religion, respects every spiritual experience, stresses the importance of rising above the ethnical do's and don'ts of religion to the experience of religion. That's what Advaita has done to India, which made for harmony between religion and religion. Suppose there was an Advaitic Christianity in Europe. What's the meaning of Advaitic Christianity? That Christianity which accepts every form of Christian experience. The Protestant, the Catholic, the Greek Orthodox, and many other subsidiary developments that came, you are all Christian, I accept you, I accept you. This is called Advaita Christianity. There was no Advaita Christianity. Everything was exclusive, contradictory, and not only opposing other denominations, but also other religions, non-Christian religions, and opposing also emerging science. If Advaita Christianity was there, none of these would have taken place. Neither opposing other denominations, nor other religions, nor this great sister discipline of truth, namely physical science. In India, because of this Advaitic vision, India supported all religions, all sects, all denominations, and also physical science. That is the nature of that philosophy that sustained India's development of religion. So Vivekananda came in the modern period, looked around and found this profound philosophy of the Upanishads has not been properly understood and implemented in society. Anything that is narrow, sectarian, denominational, exclusive has no place in that Vedantic vision. Broad human acceptance, broad and universal vision, that is the great message of the Upanishads, because its vision is based upon this invariable truth in every human being, the divine spark, the Atman. And this Atman is present in all of us in its integral wholeness. It never says in one there is 1%, another 2% or 10%. Everyone has the same infinite energy present within himself or herself. God cannot be partitioned because it is infinite. He can be in me as well as in you in all fullness. So this kind of expression, today we can understand it in the language of modern physics, that a thing can be infinite and yet present in all. The Gita puts it as avibhaktam vibhakteshu vibhaktam cha sthitam. Undivided in things apparently divided. It looks as if it is divided. Really it is undivided. Just like space is undivided. You put 4 walls and catch space and close it here. Space doesn't know any enclosure. Here and there it is just the same. So this way the infinite Atman is present in every being, in its integral wholeness. That's why every human being has a unit value. Nobody has a fractional value from the spiritual point of view. This is the Advaitic vision, the same Atman present in every being. See all with an equal eye. Samadrishti is the word used in Sanskrit. Equal eye, samadrishti. Evaluate man not from the variable externals, but from the invariable internal reality. Externals are all variable. Somebody will be rich or poor, beautiful, ugly, learned, ignorant, black, white, brown, all sorts of colors are there. These are all variables. What is invariable about man? The spark of the divine that is within, that infinite Atman that is present in every being. When that truth is slightly recognized, in attitude will come. Swamiji therefore quoted a verse from the Gita to illustrate this truth. Samam pashyan hi sarvatra samavasthitam ishwaram nihinastya atmanam tato yati param gatim. Seeing the same Atman present everywhere, the sage does not injure the self by the self and goes to the highest goal. That is the direction of human development, of human evolution. That truth was given to us ages ago in the Upanishads. A few sages and saints only profited from it till now. It was unknown to many other people. 1,000 years later, Krishna came and taught the same thing in the Gita. Even then it was not widespread in understanding and implementation. Then 1,000 years later came Buddha in the 6th century BC. He made it the sheet anchor of his whole teaching. Compassion, compassion, compassion. Buddha is always known as an incarnation of Karuna. Karuna is the word for compassion, infinite love to all. In fact, one of the meditative techniques of Buddhism as taught by Buddha and also of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is send out a feeling of friendliness and love to all beings. Before your meditation, send out this Maitri Bhavana, it is called. Maitri means friendship. I am the friend of all. The whole world is my friend. I have no enemy. This Maitri Bhavana is a very important constituent of meditation according to Buddhism and Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So Buddha developed and implemented this humanistic vision. His religion was very humanistic. So humanistic, it embraced also all human beings of all types and also animals. That's why in the wake of Buddhism, India had hospitals for animals as well as for human beings. Care of the animals is part of humanism. This is a wonderful idea. But very soon, that flood passed away. People forgot the essential teachings. And again came these divisions between man and man. When Swamiji appeared on the scene, so far as India is concerned, humanism was not at all practiced by large numbers of people. They were religious, but a narrow type of religion, centered only in the temple. Outside that, there can be anything. You can be very wicked in life, and you are very devoted to God in the temple. There is no joining the two. The human element missed a good deal at that time. It was then Ramakrishna appeared, lived such a glorious life. The whole of that Vedantic tradition became embodied in this great personality. That's why Romarola presents Ramakrishna in his Life of Ramakrishna in these beautiful words. Ramakrishna is the consummation of the 2000-year spiritual life of 300 million people. And he presents Ramakrishna and Vivekananda in the introduction to his book, a word to my Western readers, as the splendid symphony of the universal soul. Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, the tremendous universality, infinite sympathy and compassion for all beings. And Ramakrishna emphasized this great teaching of the Upanishads in a small equation out of his own experience. Every jiva is Shiva. Service of the jiva is the worship of Shiva. This is Ramakrishna saying. Jiva means a soul in Sanskrit. Jiv means to live. A living entity is called jiva. Jiv means to live, out of which the English word genetic comes. The root is the same. Every jiva is Shiva. Shiva is the great, immortal, divine reality. Where do you seek for Shiva? Here and there? No. He is there, present in every being. In every being Shiva is there. So serve Shiva in every being. That is real worship. That was Ramakrishna's emphasis. And earlier, in one of the great books of India, Bhakti book, known as Srimad Bhagavatam, this subject is beautifully expounded, where the teacher is Kapila, an incarnation of the divine, and the student is his own mother, Devahuti. A great section in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Kapila's advice to his mother Devahuti. Kapila was an incarnation. He was renouncing the world, going into the forest. Mother said, before you go, give me some spiritual instruction, something about the teaching of yoga. So this Kapila gives the mother a beautiful exposition of the spiritual life. This forms the theme in the third book of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then a beautiful teaching comes there, because already Hinduism had become encrusted. It had become concentrated only in temples. In human relations, there is no spiritual touch. So he says there, I am in the heart of all beings. Aham sarveshu bhuteshu bhutatma avasthitas sada. I am always present in the heart of all beings, says this Kapila, who is treated as an incarnation of the divine. Tam avatnyaya mam martya kurute archa vidambanam. Forsaking me in all beings, even insulting me in all beings, this man wants to worship me in a temple, in a church, in a mosque. What a foolish thing it is. This is number one. Then he says, Mother, I am not at all pleased with the worship of such people who may spend a lot of money, who may have plenty of mantras and other things in the worship, very ostentatious worship. I am not pleased with such worship at all. If behind that worship there is insulting me present in every being around, first respect me there, then do any kind of worship, it is okay. Now this is how he expounds this idea, the divine concept of humanism. Man seen in a new light. We see him full of weakness, ordinary human being, but that is with these eyes. Behind him is a profound dimension. He also doesn't know it. We also do not know it. But philosophy knows it. It has seen through. That should be the basis of our understanding of man, our interrelations with him, and therefore, toward the end of the discourse, he puts this whole idea in a wonderful vision. And that verse, Vivekananda kept at the back of his mind when he told the Indian people in a famous lecture in Madras in 1897 on the future of India. After returning from America and England, he was received with the greatest tumultuous devotion by thousands and thousands of people of India. Even that is something very unique. You can't find such a thing in any other country, that this Vivekananda, so unorthodox, so critical about the ethnical aspect of the Hindu religion, criticizing many of its foibles and follies, and yet when he comes breaking every rule of India's ethnical religion, returns to India, he is welcomed as no conqueror in the world has been welcomed anywhere. When princes remove the horses from Swamiji's carriage, they start pulling Swamiji's carriage. Students carrying the carriage. This kind of thing happened in Madras, Rameshwaram, that is Ramnad, Calcutta, everywhere. The whole nation rose to welcome this great, wonderful teacher who has come to teach us true religion against all these ethnical limitations, narrowness of caste, untouchability, all this nonsense which had come, anti-human practices. He had already seen these things when he was wandering in India. They had burned his heart. What has happened to these people? Such a profound philosophy and religion they have, where man is described as divine, and he treats man absolutely as worse than an animal. Swamiji had seen all this when he travelled all over India as a parivrajaka, a wandering monk, just a stick in his hand, a kamandalu in his hand, a Gita and Imitation of Christ as two books with him. He travelled all over India, living with its princes and peasants, intellectuals and common people, and saw the real India. And it was full of sorrow for him. What has happened to these people? He gave expression to it later on when he came to this country. In several letters written to India to awaken Indian humanity to this defect in its treatment of man and to present before it this profound humanistic philosophy based on that Vedantic vision of the divine in the heart of all. One sentence is something remarkable. Here is that sentence: no religion on earth preaches the dignity of humanity in such a lofty strain as Hinduism, and no religion on earth treads upon the necks of the poor and the low in such a fashion as Hinduism. What a tremendous criticism of one's own religion, one's own society. Everything is open, nothing is hidden. This is something remarkable. A fraction of what Vivekananda spoke against his own religion was spoken by another religion, another religious teacher, another religion. He would have been hanged 20 times. But Vivekananda was received with the greatest respect and love, and the whole country rose to welcome him. In that lecture in Madras, he was telling the people of India, what kind of religion are you having? Temple-centered, image-centered religion. Everywhere else there is no religion at all. That's not correct. Give it up. Then he said, for the next 50 years, this alone shall be our keynote. This, our great Mother India. There are millions and millions of people whom you can worship. That is real worship. Worship them. The word service is poor. The word worship is the correct word. See God in them. This is the universal form of the divine. Millions and millions of people. You neglect them, you will treat them, and you go to a temple to worship a god in a particular image. It is foolishness. That's why you are all suffering here. That language is powerful. And subject is the future of India. Do this. For the next 50 years, forget all the gods. He says it. Forget all the gods. They don't exist. This is the God that is awake. The infinite divine, scattered everywhere in human beings. Serve them. Worship them. This is the wonderful message, the message of service, but with reverence. What is worship? Swamiji gives a beautiful insight into this concept. We often hear in Vedantic books the statement, work is worship. When does work become worship? First of all, it must contain that spirit of service. And that's not enough. Every service cannot become worship. But along with service, if there is reverence also, then every work becomes worship. When you go to a church, you serve in the church. Say, washing, sweeping, dusting you do. You are serving there. But that service is accompanied by a spirit of reverence. That's why it becomes a worship. Similarly, in human relations also, if you can combine service with reverence, then it becomes worship. Work is worship from this point of view. You are serving your little baby, wonderful. Serve it with love, but with reverence. There's a divine spark in that child. Then that very work becomes worship. This is the great philosophy of work Swami Vivekananda taught. And this was at the back of his mind when he said this: worship is the exact equivalent of the Sanskrit word. No other English word will do. Everything that you do to the other human being is worship. Stand before the other human being in reverence. Don't stand in a superior attitude, throw some coin towards somebody. Have reverence, reverence, reverence. Some of the great teachers and some of the great reformers of the modern period have referred to this concept and value of reverence for life. One was Albert Schweitzer, that great German missionary and scholar. Reverence for life should be the center of our attention. In Swamiji you find the explanation for it, reverence, because there is a spark of the divine in every human being. I may be poor, I may be down and out, I may be broken, but that divine is always there. And so stand in reverence before every human being, convert your work into service and service into worship by adding reverence to that service. He said this in that Madras lecture. At that time, this teaching of Kapila to his mother Devahuti was at the back of his mind. Here is that wonderful verse that comes a little later, after the verses which I quoted earlier had been mentioned. Kapila says, Athamam sarveshu bhuteshu bhutatmanam kritalayam arhayet danamanabhyam maitriya abhinnena chakshusha. A profound verse. Every word in it has been implemented in Swamiji's message today. What does he say? Therefore, worship me. For what is religion? Worship of God. The word worship here is arhayet. Arhana is archana in Sanskrit, means worship. Beautiful word in Sanskrit. Arhana, archana. Arhayet, mam, worship me. Then I ask, why? Where shall I worship you? Then comes the answer, sarveshu bhuteshu, in all beings. Worship me in all beings. Why? Bhutatmanam, I am the self of all. Kritalayam, I have built myself a temple in every one of them. What Jesus said, are ye not tabernacles of God? In the Bible you will read it. Are ye not tabernacles of God? Same language here. Athamam sarveshu bhuteshu bhutatmanam kritalayam. I have already built a temple in all these for me. Therefore, arhayet, worship me there. How to worship God in man? Easy to worship God in the temple or in a church or in a mosque. Very easy, because God doesn't respond. We say in India, you take plenty of sweets and fruits to a temple and offer it to God. And you get the whole thing you get back. Nothing is taken there. But in God, in the case of man, it is quite different. He will eat it. Certainly he will take it away. So, that second line is most wonderful. Arhayet, worship me there. How? Dana manabhyam. Through dana, mana. Remove the felt wants of people around you. Hungry, find food or employment. Illiterate, give education. Full of sorrow, bring peace. Thus, removing the felt wants of people around you, of beings around you, worship me there. And while doing so, respect the person concerned. He may be poor, he may be backward, he may be sick, but respect. Why? I am there. Don't forget that focus. That point of reverence is there. So the second word is mana, respect. See the wonderful idea. If I see a poor man, I just throw a coin towards him. There's no respect in it. It is contempt. It is pity. Pity has no place in this wonderful human relationship. It's all right in an aristocratic society. We can pity the common people. But in a democracy, we don't pity. Everyone has a status. So similarly, every human being has a spark of the divine. So the Lord says here, Arhayet, Danamanabhyam. Remove the felt wants of people around you. While doing so, respect them. They have a dignity. Today they are poor. Tomorrow they may cease to be poor. These are all passing things. And therefore respect me in them. Respect their integrity as a human being, as carrying the spark of the divine. These are the two words. Dana, mana. Dana actually means charity, donation, or giving. Do means to give. It's a wonderful word. Donation is a word coming from the same root in Sanskrit, donate, dana. This Sanskrit is the base for these words there. So dana, mana, abhya. Mana is respect. Respect the person there. What a beautiful idea, respect for man. Even the little baby, we have to respect that little child. Today's education tells you, respect the child. Today's whole democratic philosophy tells you, respect the common man. In him is some profound value. Of course, in democracy, we know the value of the common individual. Where you find the voting time in elections, Vivekananda referred to this aspect of Vedanta in the political context when he spoke in America once. Your democracy is the essence of Vedanta, because every man has an integral value in democracy. Because you have $1 million in your pocket, you don't have 2 votes, only 1 vote. Everybody has only 1 vote in a democracy. Its philosophy is, you have an integral value. The same Atman is present in everyone, whatever may be his social status, in his fullness. That's why in recent elections in India you will find an old woman can't even walk. People carry like this, she goes to vote. She has a status. As a social individual, she has no status. She is unprotective, very weak, but she has not lost her supreme status. That spark that is within, that is where her individuality lies. Nobody can take it away. May be very poor, maybe a beggar even, he has also a status there. So in all these ideas, this beautiful concept comes in, reverence, reverence, reverence. That is essential to raise interhuman relations to the highest level. We had the concept of aristocracy in the past. Aristocrats were top people. They looked down upon the common people. That was the nature of old aristocracy. England had aristocracy, France, Germany, everywhere. Earlier, Greece had aristocracy, Rome had aristocracy. All over India we had it, China had it. There's a big change coming over, that kind of looking down upon the common people. Everybody has a status, and America is specially dedicated to this great conception. Everyone, man is born equal. That's a great proposition we try to develop here. The French Revolution was a tremendous reaction against this value system as between high and low. The high has higher value, low has lower value. And French Revolution came, completely changed in the cry of equality, liberty, fraternity. That's great French Revolution. So we are living in an age where this idea has great welcome. Swamiji voices it in a spiritual language. We used it political language till now. But this political institution called democracy has a spiritual counterpart. If that is stressed, democracy will survive. If not, democracy will be a sham, as we put it. Because if I have no spiritual vision, I am told everybody is equal. In my mind I will be laughing all the time. What fool, I can purchase hundreds of them with my money here. And you say, I am equal to him? I am certainly not equal. That kind of cynical attitude is bound to come and destroy the basis of democracy. But once you have this spiritual vision behind democracy, that can never come. Respect for man, not because he has money, he has knowledge, or disrespect because he is poor or backward, but there is a common denominator running through all this existence, that is the Atman, the divine self. So that is said in this verse, Athamam sarveshu bhuteshu bhutatmanam kritalayam arhayet danamanabhya. Then come 2 words, full of deep meaning. What shall be my attitude? First, we have already said worship. Naturally, reverence is essential to constitute worship. But that is put in a new language here, Maitriya, a sense of friendliness. You are a friend of man. You are going to him as a friend to help him, to raise him up, not as a superior. Maitriya, what a beautiful word, the friend of all. And then a second expression, so much used in Vedanta, so central to Vedanta, abhinnena chakshusha, with an eye of non-separateness. We are all one, that attitude. Don't think you are separate. A millionaire and a common man, they are not essentially separate. The same Atman is present in all of them. What a beautiful conception. Its translation into politics is democracy. That's why a millionaire and a poor man has equal status in a democracy, equal value in a democracy. Nobody has extra value. That's why abhinna drishti. I am a citizen of America. You are also a citizen of America. We are both fellow citizens. That's called abhinna drishti. Bhinna means separate. Abhinna means non-separate. Drishti means vision. The vision of non-separateness. This is highly sung in Vedantic books. The greatest thing we can do in life is to develop this abhinna drishti. And the opposite is bhinna drishti. Separate idea. We are all separate. One is low, one is high. That is always condemned in all Vedanta books. That is due to ignorance. That is Maya. Real vision is the spirit of non-separateness. We are all essentially one. So in Vedanta and its application to Indian life and some other lectures of Vivekananda, you will find this explanation. If you teach Vedanta to all people, what will be the result? This will be the result. Everyone will feel a sense of dignity and worth, and everybody else will try to support it, strengthen it. That's the nature of Vedanta. Teach it to a fisherman. He will say, you are a big man, I am an ordinary fisherman. But behind both of us is the same infinite Atman. I am not a petty little fellow here. This kind of raising the dignity of man beyond a social status, and social statuses are always differential. You can't have the same social status. Somebody will have more, somebody will have less. But how to establish equality in that condition? A formal equality you may get through political democracy. But a real basic equality can come only when this vision is also accompanying that political relationship, that I see behind this man the same spark of the divine as it is in me. Then comes real equality. Samata bhava, samata drishti, as I quoted from the Gita. Samata means equality. Sama means equal. Samata, samatvam is equality. We are all equal. In what point of view? The same Atman is there in every one of us. Or in simply biological language we say, we are all Homo sapiens. There is equality between all of us. Any aspect you take, this equality is the fact. We are all human beings. We are called one single species is humanity. There are no two species, whereas insects are many species, whereas man is only one species. Interbreeding, interthinking species, the language biology uses today regarding man. Interthinking, interbreeding. In the light of this 20th century understanding, post-war understanding, the earlier centuries, racial discrimination, looking down upon certain races, and the volumes of books written at that time, they look like trash today. Nobody respects those beautiful books written at that time. They have no meaning today, because here we see this concept of man's equality based upon his humanity. The Homo sapiens is a single interbreeding species, interthinking species. Through interthinking, it develops high and higher civilization. That is the language of the Bhagavata, which I quoted just now. Abhinnena chakshusha, abhinna drishti, non-separate vision. This is highly praised in Vedanta. Vivekananda expounded that humanism based upon this abhinna drishti, this focus on the invariable in all of us, the inalienable in all of us. I may alienate my wealth, I cannot alienate the Atman that is within me. That is my true self. That is the focus of my true individuality, true identity. I may become poor, I may become backward, but I can never lose this. Keep that as the basis of all interhuman relations. Sri Ramakrishna taught it. to Vivekananda. When he wanted spiritual experience, Sri Ramakrishna asked him, "What kind of spiritual experience you want, Naren?" "I want to be immersed in samadhi, forgetting this body, the world, everything. Occasionally coming to consciousness, to take a little food to retain this body. I want only this experience." Generally, if anybody asks for this kind of experience, teachers will welcome it. "Oh, it's a great thing." Not Ramakrishna. He said, "What a small-minded fellow you are. Is there not something higher than this? Can't you see God with eyes open? Is God present only when you close your eyes and go to samadhi? Is He not present everywhere?" It's a wonderful teaching. God is everywhere. In every being there is spark of the divine. Why don't you have a happy human relationship based upon it? Why not convert your action into service and to worship? That's why Ramakrishna made that equation. Every jiva is Shiva. Service of the jiva is the worship of Shiva. This Bheda Drishti, which is our normal sensory understanding, must be removed. Abheda Drishti must be brought into the picture. The whole of modern society, East and West, is striving to achieve that Abheda Drishti. We are all one. We are all one. What we call today, in the post-war period, development of a mankind awareness. American, Russian, Chinese, Indian, etc., or white, black, etc. These are all very ordinary. The real awareness is the mankind awareness. Are you a man? Yes, I am a man. We are one. Finished. That's called mankind awareness. There you can see the culmination in social language of this concept of Abheda Drishti. And we are highly developed today compared to even 50 years ago. Racialism and other things were plenty. The whole of Nazi movement was based upon supreme abhorrence of other human beings. This Bheda Drishti was maximum in Hitler's Nazi movement. Fortunately, that whole ideology was destroyed in the Second World War. It just exists here and there like South Africa and all that, but by and large, we are moving in the direction of Vedanta calls Abheda Drishti, Abhinna Drishti, oneness, non-separateness. That is where this particular verse comes to inspire us to have a more higher development of human relationship. Maitriya abhinnena chakshusha. And Swami Vivekananda, after getting the lessons from Ramakrishna, wandering about all over India, he had yet to get one more education in this Abhinna Drishti, in this Vedantic vision of oneness. And that was given by a dancing girl to this Vivekananda. A very interesting story in the life of Vivekananda. When he was wandering in India, he was in Rajasthan, that western India, wonderful country, as the guest of the prince of that place, Maharaja of Khetri. That Maharaja had invited a dancing girl to sing in the palace. So he said a word to Swamiji. "Swamiji, please come, listen to this song. She is a good singer, you will like it." Swamiji said, "I am a monk. Why should I listen to a woman's song?" That old differentiation came in his mind. But the Maharaja pressed him, "Please come, you will like it, you will like it." Swamiji came. He sat, and that girl sang from the heart a beautiful song of a great saint of the 16th century, Surdas. He was a blind saint. He always saw the divine in his heart, Krishna, little child, during his songs. Even now you find photos, beautiful pictures, painted pictures. Surdas is singing, and the little Krishna is sitting in front, watching the whole thing, listening to him. And he had once opened the eyes and saw, "I don't want any more sight. I have finished once for all. I don't want any more this sight at all." So that is Surdas. His song, which he sang, had this very theme, the attitude of non-separateness. Mere to avagona chitta na dharo, samadarshi ho naam tiharo. O Lord, don't look upon my evil qualities. Thy name is same-sightedness. A piece of iron is in the image of God. A piece of iron is in a particular instrument. When both are touched by the philosopher's stone, both become gold. Don't look upon my evil qualities. Thy name is same-sightedness. Swamiji heard it and he was moved. This is real Advaita. This girl has taught me the real Advaita. Don't make distinction between man and man, man and woman, high and low. That's Advaita. And I was still making the distinction. She has taught me the correct lesson. Now this incident is repeated by Swamiji himself. And he blessed that woman. When she took leave, you have taught me my own philosophy, how to implement it in life. Here is that great teaching, Vivekananda's humanism, behind which is a spiritual vision, the depth of the human spirit, penetrating through the body-mind complex, which are different in different people, ugly, beautiful, all our differences are there. But inside is the Atman, the divine that is hidden. That is the basis of a profound philosophy of humanism which Vivekananda preached in both East and West. It will have a tremendous impression in future, creating a new form of human relationship based on this vision of the divine in man. And all his philosophy is summarized in this very statement: each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divine within by controlling nature, external and internal. External nature you control through science and technology, socio-political processes. Internal nature you control through ethics, morality, aesthetics and religion. Do this and be free. If you control these two aspects of nature, you become free. That is the whole of religion. Be free. Doctrines and dogmas and rituals and books and temples are but secondary details. Whatever be the plane of your life, the field of your activity, keep this vision in view, try to implement it as much as you can. This is Swami Vivekananda's humanism. It is scientific humanism. All barriers between man and man are removed. Barriers that existed in Greece, in Rome, in Christianity, even in European humanism, barriers that existed in Indian social humanism, where distinction between untouchable and the higher caste continued. Breaking away all these barriers, Swamiji gave us this universal religion. Humanism based on the divine in man is a universal religion. Its expression is service, 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 which is also a universal religion. No dogma, no creed, no ritual is involved. Just the spirit of service. Whatever work you do it in a spirit of service, spirit of dedication, spirit of worship. By that work, you inspire the person concerned, you inspire yourself. Here is a man coming to me for help. I can easily destroy his self-respect by treating him as a low-class fellow, helpless fellow, by my overweening pride. Or by my other treatment, I can increase his dignity, raise him in his own self-esteem. This second is a real human relationship. Anything that you do to destroy the self-respect of the other individual should be avoided. Anything that you do by which you enhance his self-respect, that alone is correct. Vivekananda's humanism is meant for this, to enhance human dignity, human worth. And in this teaching of Swamiji, you will see the spirit of American culture. Within the next few decades, I am sure great research scholars in America will come, study Vivekananda thoroughly, and they will find the very spirit of American culture, which is this human dignity, human worth. Vivekananda has expressed it in his lectures in India, after his experience here, why this nation was founded. Land of freedom, land of human opportunity. Everybody is given a Godspeed. Go ahead, I am here to help you. That is the spirit of America. In ecstasy, he has described this American psychology, this American attitude in that Lahore lecture. Swamiji said, we have high Vedanta in India, but it is not practiced here. I saw it practiced in America. What is that? What did I see there? I used to stand on the harbor side of New York, the immigration side New York. I see lot of refugees coming from Europe. There, in their own country, they were looked down upon. They had no opportunities. They heard there is a new country called America, a land of human opportunity. With a small bundle, they come by ships, they land there. I watched them, he said. And then they are afraid as they land, as they were afraid in their own country. But within a few minutes, as he walks in the road, he comes across an American gentleman, he shakes hands with him. Oh, you are come here, beautiful. I am also a man, you are also a man. Welcome, what can I do for you? That man looks up. Nobody treated me like this. I feel I am a man among men. And within a few months, he will get an interview with the President of the United States. All that maya, that is all small, petty, all that goes away. Eyes are open. I am a man among men. That is America, a land of opportunity, the land that can lift up an average human being into high level. This is practical Vedanta. This is Vivekananda's words. He spoke to India about this to remove that maya that is in India. We look down upon people. We try to bring them down further still in our relationship. No, that's not Vedanta. Apply Vedanta. Then you will see this wonderful elevation of man. Whatever be his difficulty, you are a man among men. That Bheda Drishti, which is a subject of Maya, must go. Develop this Abheda Drishti. That is the strength of Vivekananda's humanism. Now, as I said, this is a universal philosophy. You can easily present it to any group of people. They will say, this is beautiful, this is welcome, because it is not tied down to any belief system, creed and dogma, nothing is there. That's why when I was invited by the Moscow State University to address it in 1977 October, that university gave me a subject that was Swami Vivekananda, his humanism. So I went there, spent 5 days, addressed the university. The hall was full like this. Deans, professors, students, research scholars, all were there. And I spoke on the subject in simple English. They said, no translation needed, only speak slowly, not quickly. We can follow simple English, slow-spoken English. So I tried to be as slow-spoken as possible. I spoke, and what a response I found. Swamiji's humanism. And then a professor comes forward, put a question. Swamiji, you spoke about Vivekananda teaching about the divine spark in every human being. It's a wonderful idea. Can you tell us something more about it? Then I spent a few minutes to expound this idea. And then when the meeting is over, a professor comes forward, Professor Kostichenko, his name. He hands over to me a book in Russian on Vivekananda written by him with a photo of Swamiji on the frontispiece. This is the book. That book is in my library. That very professor has written a book on Vedanta recently in Russian. Another professor also has written on Vedanta. So this idea cuts across all religious, political differences. I was speaking in Berlin, West Berlin, in a public meeting. I spoke on Vedanta and modern scientific thought. I had occasion to refer to this concept of the divine in every human being as upheld in Vedanta. At the end of the lecture, as I came down, a young German came, a youth, straight looking at me. Swamiji, you said about some divine spark in every human being. I have never heard about it till now, but it's a wonderful idea. That was his response. I have never heard about it, but it's a wonderful idea. Millions of people are waiting to listen to that message. Which Swamiji sounded in the modern period, first on the platform of the Parliament of Religions. Ramakrishna says in his Life of Vivekananda, the central theme of Swamiji's speeches in the Parliament of Religions was this divine spark in every human being and the tremendous capacity for man for indefinite evolution. Manifest this divine, you'll become bigger, bigger, greater, greater. There's no question at all. That's the language he has used. That is the importance of this great subject. Vivekananda's Vedantic humanism. Humanism we all listen to. All over the world you will find. It's a beautiful idea. But if man can destroy man, and yet we preach humanism, how can it be? But this particular understanding will bring about a change. Only oneness with all. We are all one. The same thread runs through all of us. That is the beautiful idea of Vedantic humanism. So far in this modern period, there is only one political state that has taken humanism as its political philosophy. That is Zambia in Africa, Southern Africa. I have been there. They have written books on humanism. The president of Zambia, Kenneth Kaunda, he himself is a humanist. He has written textbooks and it is taught for students in the schools. That's the nature of that kind of philosophy of politics in that particular state. In fact, they asked me to speak about this subject in their administrative training institution, where all the administrators are trained in Lusaka. So I spoke there on this humanism as a philosophy of interhuman relationship. I answered their questions also. So far as America is concerned, there are many scholars in our universities who study this subject. America is a land of many religions, many denominations, and yet there is perfect religious liberty. And one uniqueness of American Constitution is it is not committed to any religion, any denomination, yet it is not against God. It respects the idea of God. It invokes God. Every president, when he takes his oath, and that kind of inaugural day, will invoke the name of God, not any particular God, neither Jewish nor Christian nor denominational. So a commitment to God and religion is there in America, and yet it is perfectly non-denominational, what you call a secular constitution. But the central theme of American political philosophy is humanism, that human value. That is the great contribution of the political and social system of America. There are professors who study about American Constitution and say America has another type of religion. Apart from denominational religions, there's what you call the civil religion of America. America has got a civil religion. That civil religion is what you find that this state is not based upon any particular Christian or Jewish denomination. They are all willing to flourish here. You are all welcome. But the state itself is not committed to any denomination. And yet it is committed to God, a non-denominational God. And that is why we call it civic religion. So many articles came in that magazine called Daedalus on this subject, the American civil religion, which is so close to Vedanta, unity, harmony, respect for every denomination, but not commitment to any particular limited denomination. But the difficulty of civil religion is it has no mystical dimension, only ordinary social dimension. It has no mystical dimension. If ever it is to get a mystical dimension, it will come only through Vedanta. This wonderful concept of the divine in every heart of every being, that is infinite, pure, that can be realized in life, that is the dimension that will slowly evolve in course of time. Indian democracy also has the same spiritual base given by Vedanta. It is getting spelled out more and more and more and more. It is a secular constitution, not committed to any particular religion, but it respects every religion. And the secular state is not anti-religious, not irreligious, not also irreligious. It respects religion. It has got spiritual value system within it, which is being spelled out recently in various discussions in various parts of the world. And they come to Vivekananda to get inspiration for this particular idea of a political state, democratic and yet spiritual, ethical, moral values. A new book is being published just now in Delhi. Printing is going on by the Delhi Ramakrishna Mission. It is called Enlightened Citizenship. Series of lectures on the subject by eminent intellectuals. I was asked to give the inaugural lecture. I spoke on enlightened citizenship in our democracy. There I have tried to point out how this democracy, with this Vedantic inspiration behind it, will cease to be a mere political arrangement. It will be intensely ethical, moral, as well as human. That is the future which Vivekananda will impart to it through his great teaching of spiritual humanism of Vedanta. That is a great subject. I am very happy to be with you. The Russian experience has taught me that this philosophy cuts across all divisions of ideologies. It deals with man. It is in tune with the great spirit of the age. That's why, as years go, when more and more people study Vivekananda, a tremendous awakening will come, especially among the youth, and they develop that broad human sympathy, broad human attitude. And here, as I said, humanism includes not only human beings, but all living things. And the American philosopher and historian Will Durant, who died only just last year at the age of 96, written those 10 volumes on story of civilization. First volume deals with India. There he says there that we in the West can learn from India's age-old experience this unifying, pacifying love for all things that live and exist. That is how he concludes his dealing with India in that first volume, Our Oriental Heritage. So I am very thankful to you for this opportunity. I have come here several times since 1969, Swami Shantasarupananji's time, and I am glad to be here with you today, and tomorrow I fly to Houston. So namaskar. Here is a deep and meaningful Sanskrit hymn coming from very ancient times, breathing the spirit of this universality and humanism. I share it with you. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhaved. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. The first line says, Sarve. The word sarva means all, not any group or section or sect, all beings. May all beings be happy. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha. Second thing says, Sarve santu niramayaha. That all beings be free from ailments, physical or mental. That is the second one. Third, sarve bhadrani pashyantu. That all beings see only, experience only what is good, what is pleasant, what is auspicious. And lastly, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhaved. That none be participating in sorrows, privations and such things. That there be universal peace everywhere. That is a beautiful sentiment expressed in this verse, coming from ancient times and inspiring great saints and sages in India to develop that universal outlook. Namaskar.